Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning, this Matt.
This is Jesse.
And we have a whole bunch of random soup for you today, and we're going to change it up by just diving straight off into it. I am under the weather and have maybe or maybe not had a refreshing beverage, and it's actually really screwed me up. So,
Yeah, medicinal medicine. He took some medicine.
We're letting the demons out right now. So, we're gonna kind of random soup all over the place today. We have it's the end of the budget year, which is just glorious in all of its dastardly deeds and smashing into next year.
Which is literally like 2 weeks from now,
right? And just kind of big project wise, looking into next year. If you're a longtime listener, you're going to remember Carrie that we had with AFG grants. We're trying to gear up and get going with him. Big works in the project there, and trying to pull something together there. We have a new station that possibly can come online next year, 2025 sometime. We've got 4 apparatus on deck. We'll be taking a little trip. I don't even know if you know about the dates on that, but I scheduled you in November to go.
Okay, excellent.
So, we're not going too far on this one.
Yeah.
And then just, big picture, big plans, big projects. Just October really sucks for us, even though we're technically in September still. And we have our gigantic experimental training day with 3 SFFMA districts. I've been out and about trying to hand out information to these organizations, trying to drum up interest and get people signed up for the day. And then going into Fire Prevention Month of October. And yeah, it's important, and I just hate life during October because it really is a hard one. We've also, you don't know about this, but Wednesday, I'm going to try and go to a local power plant that's also a colossal energy grid capacitor with a whole bunch of batteries, and go visit with them and pre-plan and visit with those guys. You're more than welcome to go if you'd like.
I will be on the road Wednesday.
And then my physical job is also sales and bouncing around in my territory for the end of the budget year for everyone panicking and getting the last of their minute purchases in. And
then gearing up for their new budget year and the purchases that happen next month, right?
Right. And I'm already taking orders and quotes for that. And then we have just the physical organization. We are, I don't want to say in cruise control right now. There's always drama. September's been a spicy month for us, membership wise, officer wise. And I always make this joke that, and I can't remember who I'm stealing it from, but I heard it, that 50% of the fire service is going to have a problem with the changes are coming, and the other 50% are going to have problems with that nothing's changing fast enough.
Yeah.
So we've got a pretty good, healthy dose of that right now. And I'm just going to, for lack of better words, chalk it up to jitters. After talking to some membership and talking to some other people, I think it would be a little bit to blame on failure to communicate on my part, a little bit Jesse, but mostly my part. And I think a lot of it is that once we settle into our roles and our tracks or our rut, uh, when we start moving off in a direction, it's good to occasionally send up the occasional flare, carrier pigeon, smoke signal to actually let people know what you're out and about doing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I got behind the power curve a little bit on that. And it's not like a major issue or anything, but from a oh, we'll call it future outlook, me and Jesse are kind of operating and thinking, and I would almost argue working 2 to 5 years out right now. And we didn't really tell anyone that. So the stuff that we're talking about and proposing and randomly coming up in conversation, for lack of better words, is WTFing uppercutting people. And they're just like, what in the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, and I have a bad problem of assuming everybody knows everything I know all the time.
Yeah.
Turns out that most of them don't know anything I know,
Yeah.
and I I I fail to communicate well sometimes because of that. Like I just assume everybody's on the same level playing field I'm on, and the reality is that very few are. So
Well, and I think a little bit of this is also the stuff that we're supposed to be doing as chiefs. It's not that the membership doesn't need to know about it. That's not my point. But I'm doing my part. You do your part.
yeah,
And don't get me wrong, if you have questions, ask. But again, I mean, if we're doing stuff, we need to communicate it. So
yeah,
again, the root part of this is that communicate, let people know what you're doing, answer their questions, and move on. Um, the other really cool thing is that we've been talking to some other volunteer departments around us, and we're gonna have keep talking about guests, and here we are not having guests, but we definitely have one guest coming on that I
yeah.
suspect it'll be a pretty long podcast. May end up breaking that one down into not
Couple.
only two sections but multiple sections. And yeah, the VFDs out there that want to be invigorated and excited and are welcoming challenges anew, they're doing really well right now. Like this is a boon year for VFDs. Everyone I've talked to's up. Like generally, now the budget part of this, okay,
It's a little tougher.
that's a little tougher, but membership's up. I'm hearing a lot of really positive things out there, and that's not just in our regional area.
Participation's up.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's and I don't know what the attributing factors are completely, other than there's just a renewed sense of awareness.
right. Well, it goes back to our multiple times where we've talked about COVID, and people, for lack of better words, realize that in a digital age that they're missing two key components, that they are social critters and they actually like to do things besides sit behind a computer or a screen. And the VFDs that are willing to reach out and let people know that you can come here and do things that are beyond sitting behind a screen or a computer are actually doing pretty well, and they're taking full advantage of it.
Yeah. And I think it's truly spectacular, and we're seeing all over. It's not just right here in our immediate area. We're seeing departments kind of turning the tide, and you see that in that it's about a 20-year cycle, right?
Right.
That that something just changes everything, or changes the landscape on it. We're I'd attribute part of it to just the public awareness campaigns that are out there
Yeah, nationwide.
nationwide are helping that, right? I don't think that's hurting in any way. Even though I'll complain and gripe that we need to have a positive message on the back end of that, and we need to be helping people understand how to actually fix these problems.
Right.
not just identifying the problem. That's just step one, right? And awareness is step two. Well, then we need to fix this. And I think some of that national campaign has lacked a little bit in the how do you fix it kind of side of it. And I think that's because there's not a lot of people that are vocal about their successes in this stuff like we are.
Right. And I mean, I'm going to give you kind of and it is a little bit of a local example, but they're a county or two away. Uh, this little VFD, and they're a very rural community, primarily medical, well, primarily wildfire, medical, and then car accident. Very, 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 very rare structure fire. And then if they do have a structure fire, their response distances are so great that by the time they get on scene, they're defensive. And that's not against them. That's just the reality of their district and territory. But, I'll make up a timeline here. 5 years ago, this department was on the verge of collapsing. 4 years ago, the department collapsed. And I mean a thorough and efficient 100% collapse. Coming out of that, uh, the local community and the local members realized, like, you know what? We don't want this. But the problem is that the organization did collapse. So they kind of had to do like a hard reboot and completely come back up. So that process started 3 years ago. 2 years ago, they finally got their feet under them. So we're talking, I mean, the absolute bedrock bottom. You are you can't be any more new and coming out of the depths of hell than this department. And today, uh, they're actively training. They have good support from their local governments. There's the department is very active in trying to figure out how to better their membership and also figure out how to significantly enhance the services that they're providing to their community. And they still have all the everyday issues. And the difference is that they're not problems. They're just challenges now. They've completely changed the way that they're looking
Well, they're
at,
opportunities.
yeah, they've completely changed just their mindset. Instead of being Eeyore, they're this Tigger. They're just bouncing around excited. And realistically, nothing changed. There's still a very rural department. They still have the same financial challenges. They still have the same membership, but they want to make themselves better and they want to make the community better through themselves. And just a simple change in mindsets made a huge difference in that organization. And then I will argue the benefit for them is that they reached out a little bit and found some other people that are like them and other organizations like them that really do want to go out there and, for lack of better words, kick ass and take names. And now they've got a support structure around them. And it's making a huge difference in the organization, the health of the organization, and at the end of the day, how the organization will be represented and viewed in the community.
Yeah. And even at that, once you kind of climb the first couple of mountains, then you can get off in the weeds and the other things. You talk about doing things for your membership and to the benefit of the membership and that we did something recently that is a benefit to our membership, right?
We did.
Yeah, we did. So we went out and realizing that sometimes we're not the best people for somebody to talk to for counseling, right? We're pretty terrible at that. We just rub some dirt on it and get back in there. So we went out and hired an outside individual to be available to the membership as needed for a therapist, right?
Right.
Mental health, kind of looking at the mental health aspect. Is that something that's way beyond what maybe the most rural departments are going to have access or do? Absolutely. But it it's just a cog in the wheel that keeps things running properly, right? It hasn't. fully been utilized at this point. It hasn't fully been implemented, but we're taking the steps to create this program to have the ability to for it to be there for our membership.
Right. I mean, so I feel very confident, and you guys have heard Jack on here before, and he'll be on again. Uh, I feel very confident in our ability to have a healthy culture of PTSD and personal stress and day to day life issues of in the moment at the station. Bad call, just a bad day. I feel like that we've got that one covered. The one that we're addressing now and tackling, and it's not a problem, but it's a much more complex issue, is how do you address the long-term stress and mental health of your membership in your organization, and trying to get something like that created is difficult, to say the least, particularly because of my own personal requirements of having the actual appropriate individual to have your membership reference to, and having an experienced counselor that is all up to date and ready to go with first responders and veterans issues is not common yet. It's becoming a lot better. Uh, but particularly when you start to get more rural and smaller populations, having access to that individual becomes even more of a greater challenge. So that's something that we're trying to put together and, for lack of better words, finalize. And as we get closer and closer to truly representing that, we'll lay it out here in the podcast and let people know kind of like
But
what that looks like.
yeah, and I'd also be interested in feedback from many of you that have gone down this road or have a program in place or experiences with it that would be helpful to us as we're working through some of these ideas and challenges.
Right.
Because that I I'm here to learn too. So
Yeah. Well, this is, unless you are a certified counselor, licensed professional, educated, PhD, masters, whatever, you need to be kind of careful shooting from the hip on saying what's adequate and what your department needs, because that's really kind of the membership's uh the, the membership's gonna know, and it's not really the membership, it's the member that really gets to have the opinion on what's adequate. Now I realize this is a resource limited equation, but what I'm saying is just be real careful about just saying, well, I know this person, they're going to work for everyone.
yeah,
That, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is just be cognizant that of making a decision based on yourself.
yeah. Well, because I'm Gen X and I'm not allowed to. I wasn't raised to have feelings, so I don't know anything about any of that stuff.
Right, but I mean, it's
I am not the barometer.
no, and I'm not either. That's part of, that's where I'm really, that's where I'm going with this, is that whatever I deem worthy and necessary and adequate for myself may not be what's adequate, worthy, or necessary for anyone else.
Right.
And just, I don't want to get preachy on this and sound obtuse, but I'm just saying be open to what the membership is requesting.
Yeah. And let us, like I said, let us know if you've got some experience with this or have developed a program, and there's a good chance we can get the experts, so to speak, back on here and talk about this further. Because if there's interest in it, let us know. We can get the counselors and have Lacey back, and we can get Jack back in here, and we can have a nice discussion about just kind of mental health in the fire service in general.
And kind of like the last thing that we'll talk about on this is the reason that it's suddenly popped up is because it's an issue today.
Yeah.
And uh
But we were having these conversations months and months ago
right,
about needing to do something, right? And we just kind of got the reality check that, hey, we probably should think about this sooner rather than later.
right,
And I think that's the message that needs to go out. There's a lot of opportunities for help out there for your membership that are maybe not the hands-on personal right here in your town kind of thing, but there's opportunities, and you need to be aware of all those and have that access for you. I know that even the VFIS insurance is available uh, pretty much everywhere for volunteer fire departments, has programs that are available for different size departments for uh, things. We kind of chose to go our own route. That doesn't mean we don't end up uh, in that program that they already have built, or are utilizing that as a piece of our program. Uh, but we chose local and ready versus uh, telemedicine type situation.
right. And just so people understand our logic on this, at the end of the day, I personally feel that someone, because we have this luxury, someone local that's not connected with the department, but has the right background and, quite frankly, the right personal history to be able to connect with our first responders is a really important part of this equation.
Yeah,
And the key of this is they're not on the department.
yeah.
And it's the next step
Well,
for us.
and a big part of that is their willingness to to do that, right?
Right.
That that individual's willingness to participate and serve our needs has a lot of bearing on that.
Sure. And uh you know, and I'm not gonna, this isn't a call volume thing, because you can be a really tiny department with a really small call volume and have the wrong call that really, really affects your membership.
Oh, and I look back at being from a smaller town and spending 20 years in the fire service, where probably 50% of the calls I knew the person, right?
Right.
That has a bearing on stuff. Like, it wasn't just people passing through that you responded to, and although I didn't know everybody in a town of 5,000, I knew a significant portion of the town of 5,000. And so, when you're going to a medical call or something like that, there was a decent chance that it was somebody that you had a relationship with outside of patient
Right.
provider. So that that I can see in a smaller rural setting where it could even be more valuable to your membership in that aspect, because that stuff does take a toll on you. I mean, it takes a toll on everybody if you lie and say it doesn't shape who you are and alter your disposition and your attitude and all those things. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah. Well, you're just oblivious. I mean, in fact, actually, I'm going to make a bold statement here, Cotton. If you're making that public statement, it's a coping mechanism,
Yeah.
and you're actually the one that's in the crosshairs of having an issue because well, we always make this statement, you know. It took a while for me to be on the department to kind of realize how stupid this statement is. That oh, it doesn't bother me. It should, you psychopath.
Yeah.
It really should. You know, sociopaths and psychopaths are bad things to have on a department
Well, hell, I'll leave.
because because it really is the human condition at the end of the day is this fire service and compassion. And I'm not saying that it drives you to an addiction or problems, but it's a coping mechanism to sit there and say it doesn't bother you because you're trying to appear to be manly and butch and, not weak. And again, I would actually highlight the fact that it's a pretty significant coping mechanism to sit there and say that it doesn't bother you that that kid died in that pool. That's a problem actually,
Yep.
because it really should. Now, should it affect your life? This is where the great debate comes in.
Right.
Okay. Uh, and the second that it does, by exhibiting coping mechanisms of saying it doesn't bother you when it really does, that's kind of like, your first little sign. I won't say you're a train about to derail, but I'm saying like
But you need to talk about it.
you need to be based in reality, not fiction
Yep.
and perceptions.
Yep.
Uh Bouncing off of that into other things, our little old fire academy, it's tiny this year. There's how many people are actually signed up?
56 enrolled. And we've lost a few through the first couple weeks, which is to be
Typical.
expected.
And we'll continue to lose.
Yeah. Somebody will have something come up and they won't be able to make it for the duration or whatever. And we understand that and invite them back to come again, right? The even the folks that have schedule conflicts that are going to miss significant portions, I'd rather come in and make what they can make and get the training, and then we can pick up what we missed next time, or whatever we need to do, or run back through it again, uh, to get them all the way through it. Uh, I'd rather see them do that than say, oh, I can't, I got to miss 3 weeks. I'll do it next time altogether, and not come and get the the hands on and the start of it. The reality is it's so condensed and so uh, demanding. The schedule of it's pretty demanding that it probably doesn't hurt anybody to make 2 passes through there.
Well, yes, period. They're just here's the other advantage of 2 passes. Chances are you're going to have a different instructor on the same topic.
Right.
And you're going to get just a different perspective. That's good. And I don't know. I'm a schmuck for training. I just training's how you don't die. It really is. And I mean, if you really want to put it as a priority based, don't die.
Yeah.
That's a big one. You can help the patient. That's good. That's the goal. But don't die in the process. It'd be preferable if you don't kill the patient too. But let's not die.
Or your fellow firefighters.
Yeah. Oh, there's them too.
Yeah.
But yeah, training's good. Different perspectives are good.
Yeah. I like to just bounce around to the different groups and the different projects and just pay attention to what's being taught and who's teaching it and kind of where they go with it and how they're working through the objectives and the material, because everybody puts their own little nuances on it, and their stories are different, and their emphasis on certain things more than others is a little bit different from person to person and instructor to instructor, and more the stories, right? The
Mhm.
stories are always different because they have a different set of experiences to pull from. And I enjoy bouncing through and just listening to different people's lectures because there's always something else to pick out from someone else's lecture that, hey, that's a really good example of that. And I'll try to hold on to that and use it the next time I'm teaching this subject. Because it does work. You can expand upon something.
And one thing I want to highlight real quick, uh, the quality of instructors. Okay, so we'll just come out of the gate kind of swinging on this. So we had ladders, ropes and knots, and we had rescue this weekend, right?
RIT, yeah, RIT
RIT rescue.
rescue.
Okay, so the ladders instructor is a long time volunteer firefighter. I mean, the man is a champion of the volunteer fire service. He's a chief of a volunteer fire department, a very successful volunteer fire department. And he also just happens to be a captain at a very large fire department in Texas. And he's a truckie. So and on top of all of this, he's a fantastic instructor.
Yeah, really good.
Okay. So he's got, I don't think it's 30 years, so I'll just call it 25 of total time in the service. But just, I mean, chock so full of experience that it's asinine, and it's a godsend to have that as an instructor. Um, so that's ladders. Then we go over to ropes and knots. And we have one of the most unique, exciting, and enthusiastic instructors on the face of the earth, uh, who just also happens to be a ropes and knots guru, rescue tech, and 500 other certs under his belt at another major Texas fire department as a career firefighter. Now, he's just a lowly firefighter, but he started here. He's been in the fire service 10 years and just absolutely loves ropes and knots. And he's a fantastic instructor. And I would argue it's his true calling in life also. Then on top of that, we have another firefighter that came up through our organization, career firefighter. He's only in like probably the top 5% fire departments in the size of Texas and on and on. And he just happened to tag in on ropes and knots over there also. And then we have the actual training, we'll call him guru coordinator, Grand Puba, El Presidente Extraordinaire, Gene. He's only had 27 years in the fire service and probably 35 years if you can count his volunteer time, and lead instructor at a major college, captain at his home department. I mean, that's just to hit the gate running.
Captain at our department.
Yeah, captain at our department. I mean, the quality of instruction that our students are getting is, all I'll say is that I think it's going to make a difference out of the gate for the students. And I think they'll be able to perform at standard or, God forbid, a little higher.
Yeah, and realize that one guy is not tackling ladders all by himself. It's got a lot of helpers, right? And a lot of students of the instruction.
Right. Well,
with them.
This is just where the idiot volunteers come in that have anywhere between 5 and 30 years of experience and have run thousands of calls themselves and have had just the exact same level of training or higher and just as many certifications. But like I said, that's the idiot volunteers.
Yeah. And some of those instructors are, I don't know, and being an instructor in instructional conversation and portraying information, we're not all on a level playing field, right?
No, not at all.
And I think that's a skill you develop. And I know I was paying attention to this the other week as I was teaching salvage covers. And I don't know if anybody's ever spent a lot of time teaching salvage covers.
I have.
That is probably the most,
Awesome.
yeah, a terrible class to have
It's
to
awesome.
instruct, right? But you got to make it awesome and engaging, right? And how do you do that? So if the instructor's not invested in making that class topic awesome and engaging, it comes through to the students, right?
Right. Well, let's go down the rabbit hole for just a second on this. At the end of the day, salvage and overhaul, let's be honest, is probably one of the most unfun, not awesome, definitely no glory uh tasks on the fire service. Now, let me tell you,
But it's the
you want
number
to
two job, right? Live sim property falls into the save property side.
talk about something that absolutely changes someone's opinion of your organization is, we'll just a couple of examples. Let's say it's a room and contents fire. The homeowner finally comes into the house and they always get to ask this question. What the hell is all this? Why is all my shit under a tarp on a table? Well, we knew we were going to come in here. We were going to spray a bunch of water. So we grabbed all your personal belongings that looked important. Sorry, we had to make a decision on that. And we put it all under this tarp because we knew that we were going to be tearing out the walls and ceiling and we were going to be spraying a bunch of water. So we were doing our absolute best to try and protect the things that we thought were going to be valuable to you. Everything changes.
Yes.
Everything changes. Now, go to the exact extreme on that. You have a house fire, you get on scene. Buddy, this thing's done. It's done. You have a fully involved attic fire. It's 2 rooms, fully vented, like winds blowing 30 miles an hour. How big of a hazard is that to the crews versus the benefit of just sending 2 or 3 crews inside real quick just to grab family photos and anything that looks important inside out real quick and just put it in the front yard? As someone, as a kid who went through a house fire, I can assure you the crap that's actually important to someone, it doesn't matter how big the house is, literally fits in 3 or 4 handfuls or 2 armfuls. Like, grab photos, grab jewelry, grab something that looks important.
Yeah. The thing that I tried to instill in the students last week was it's the things money can't buy.
Right.
Right. It's not the IKEA dresser.
No.
Not the lazy boy sofa. It's the things money can't buy.
Right. And it makes such an impression on the property owner, homeowner, when it actually looks like that you gave the personal touch and that you care about their personal disaster. And let's be honest, a structure fire, homeowner's fire is a personal disaster because we all know that even if it's a room and contents fire, realistically, everything in that house is trashed from the smoke, from the water. And you going out of your way to try and protect, I got a cough, try and protect what looks like it's important to them. Uh, it changes the world for that person.
Yeah.
And salvage and overhaul, one of the most neglected, overlooked, and arguably most important classes that we teach.
Yeah. Yep. And it's interesting. It's interesting on the different takes of it. But you take any of those old hand good instructors, they're going to teach it well.
Right.
Whereas the green new instructor, they struggle with topics like that because they haven't instilled into their psyche the importance of it. And I think that was kind of the point I was going to get around to, is that not always are the best instructors out there, but let them grow into that good instructor,
Well,
right?
well, well,
It takes time to grow that really good instructor.
Really good educators are actually pretty rare. You know, classic example, name your favorite teacher that you went through in school.
Yeah.
You might have one or two, but realistically, that's it. Uh, and a really good educator is exceedingly rare. Uh, and I do mean exceedingly rare. My entire career, and I've had a lot of education in my career, whether it be through high school, college, aviation, now currently on the fire side. My absolute favorite slash what I would consider best educators is still 3, 4 people tops. And there's if you are one of those really good educators, oh my God, please keep teaching. Like, don't stop because you need to keep doing it.
Well, and you need to teach the next round how to do it,
Right.
right?
Even if you're retired, I understand. Let's go to the exact opposite. Let's say you're a math teacher and you're really good at it. Okay. And just even if you're retired, don't quit. Like, I'm not saying you need to be a full-time math teacher, but God, please continue to be a teacher because it's so rare to have a really, really, really good educator.
Yep.
They're hard to find. Uh, let's see. What else should we bounce into? I know we're getting a little bit on the
We're there.
long side.
I mean, I think we've hit a couple good topics, and I don't know that there's anything necessarily happening in our world that's worthy of more conversation. Other than we are we're having some technical difficulties with some of our equipment, and we've got having a conversation on the side over here in text messages with a we'll call him an expert. Definitely knows more than me about our equipment. We had the last podcast was just almost unusable audio, but we uh we powered through it and made it work. But this one should turn out better. It looks better, but understand we sometimes have to, because that's the material we have, and it takes a significant amount of time, energy, and effort to produce these, and sometimes the quality is not to our standard, but we get it, and we hope you continue to listen or try again.
Very last thing, I don't know why I thought of this. SFFMA and MVFC have got to figure out how to communicate.
Yeah.
Like, I was so desperately wanting to go to the MVFC conference this year, or the next one scheduled in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And it's at the exact same time as SFFMA.
Yeah.
Like,
and we're already committed to
right.
the state conference.
I don't know how to make this work. And I realized that MVSC would technically have to work around 50 states.
Yeah.
And Rhode Island is just as important as Texas. Okay. I don't know how to make that work, but, and vice versa to the state, figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely wanted to throw our hats in to the MVFC to
we
be
shouldn't
presenters.
have to pick.
Yeah.
We should be able to go to both. Really, we should be able to go to both. Even if we're not contributing as speakers, we should be able to attend. And it is infuriating that we can't.
Yeah.
You want to know what's wrong with the volunteer fire service? That's what's wrong with the volunteer fire service. The agencies that are supposed to lead, guide, and direct and help light the path forward for us, stop having conflicts of interest. There's one. Makes me sad.
Yeah, it's definitely saddening. And I don't know that we close the door completely on the ability to somewhat participate in both, because there is the opportunity to, remote in or something like that. But it makes it way more difficult, and it would take a lot of coordination that I'm not sure is there to be coordinated.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, especially just for our current capabilities.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so if you're with the MBFC and you have interest in us participating, reach out. We'll figure out how we can do that remotely from Texas. But we're committed to the Texas conference. So
yeah. Yeah, it just, oh my God. When Jesse told me that a week or two ago, I'm like, are you kidding me?
yeah. Yeah, it turns out we have to be present in Texas to vote, and that's going to trump pretty much everything. So that vote's important.
So on that glorious positive note, if you ever feel like reaching out to us, you can find us at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Patreon at ittasteslikeburningcast. Definitely, if you ever feel like, well, of course, if you feel like watching an audio recording, you can find us on YouTube at It Tastes Like Burning Cast.
Yeah, we need to get back and do some more video stuff. Like we need to make that happen, and it's a little more difficult for us because we are technologically challenged. Let's just put it that way.
I don't know if it's as much challenged or as just, I don't think people really understand how spontaneous the podcast is.
That is also a very large factor.
So it's makes it interesting.
Yeah.
Also, you can support us on Patreon. And with that said, this Matt.
This Jesse.
Have a good evening.
Good evening.